What's your name? Say it!
It doesn't matter what your name is!
Say my name.
What's your name? What? What is your name? Tony!
You're listening to Don't Call Us Anthony podcast. All guest views and opinions are their own, but don't worry, the hosts will share theirs so you can call them opinionated. But just don't call them Anthony. And now, the hosts of Don't Call Us Anthony, Cooley and Tony.
Are we recording?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Hey guys!
Now we are.
Oh my God! Welcome to the show.
I mean, don't ever ask if we're recording, because that makes me feel like we should be recording. So
You always should be recording.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys do your things, but welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it, guys. Well, I really just enjoy that you came out in this dark night to record this show in the middle of this winter storm. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. I'm going to introduce you guys, but why don't you pretend this is your show first, and then I'll let you guys go ahead. That's good.
Oh my God. Oh, Lenny, I love you, bro.
How you doing?
Good. So, Lenny, thank you for joining Cooley and I on the Don't Call Us Anthony podcast. Always a
Hey,
pleasure,
guys.
buddy.
Should I tell you all about Lenny Schwartz? I'll be happy to tell you about him.
Well,
Great guy.
I think we should mention that I've known you for what, almost like 20, 21, 22 years now.
It's actually been 2002, I think, is when we met. Literally, I think the first time I laid eyes on you, it was love at first sight. And
Aw.
it was. I mean, really, it's funny. I'll tell the story again because it was great. You came to audition for a show, and the first night you said you did very well. You read it very well. And then the second night, with the first night, you said, I can come back with a bow staff. And I'm like,
All right,
cool,
it was a 3-section staff.
It
It wasn't a
That's what it
bow
was.
staff.
Yeah, well, both, whatever it was.
Walking around Rhode Island College with a full bow staff.
Yeah, you went up, but you did. You came to audition to three whatever prongs thing, and you did this whole act. Where you did this whole thing where you actually did it. It was fucking terrifying. And you're doing it during an audition. And the guy, one of my friends who's sitting next to me, goes, "Why'd you have him come back and do this and do this?" And I said, "I don't know. I didn't think you'd actually do it." and then I didn't cast you, which was an asshole move.
Knowing what I know now about your auditions, like I probably never would have, like, because the name of the show was Kung Fu Baby, so I thought
right.
like, oh, if I can demonstrate that I know something Kung Fu related, like it might help my chances. But I didn't realize like that there really wasn't going to be anything like that in the show. So it made no sense. And so hearing the story and then like remembering I actually did that is somewhat embarrassing.
All right, dude. However, I will say, when we did it again, we did the show 4 years later, and you came back sans bow staff, and you were amazing. You were casting the show, and I thought about asking to do the bow staff then too in that show. I said, not the bow staff, the three anyway.
3-section staff, yeah.
3-section staff. I want one myself anyway. How are you guys?
Doing good, man. So glad to have you on. First question, just tell us a little bit about like who is Lenny Schwartz? Like, give us a little bit of your background. Like, who are you? Who's your deal?
Well, it's funny because I think about this a lot, actually. I'm a guy from Cranston, Rhode Island, and I say this very often. Cranston, you had two choices when you came from Cranston. One was to get into drugs and really heavily get into drugs, and the other one was to go into theater.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I think about this a lot. About the choices I had, and I said, I'm gonna try theater. It took me a minute to think about that, but I was at Cranston West, and it was a den of vice and scum, and I felt it. I was like, I don't know. The funny thing was, I said one or the other. Everyone went for drugs, so we have. And no offense, is anyone here from Cranston?
My wife.
Oh, that's right.
This is going to be amazing when she hears this.
Oh, it's amazing, yeah.
Well, I mean, she obviously chose theater. I mean,
yeah, she's in the arts too. Good for her.
Yeah.
And people that she knows from Cranston probably there, but probably know the same dealer. I mean, honestly, let's be honest, me and her.
I love it.
Anyway,
Oh
but
my
yeah,
God.
but I, I write plays. I write screenplays, which is just amazing. I'm just a guy, just like anyone else who likes doing what he does. And I probably direct about 2 plays a year, and I'm
Mhm.
trying to get at least one film done every year. Although I'm filming right now, it's probably going to take me every 2 years to do a film because I'm shooting like Stanley Kubrick apparently, and I'm
Yeah.
the slowest director since Stanley Kubrick, where I literally I go to film set and it's like I have such an amazing team. So if they're listening to this, we're doing a film called The Haunted and the Hunted. If they're listening to this, one of the best teams I've ever worked with. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? It's like honestly, they're so good at what they do. And I'm like, and I just like, okay, just say action and pretend you know what you're doing. The thing of it is though, with film, it's so different. But anyway, but back to this. I've been directing for over 20 years at this point. Started probably 1996, almost 30 years now.
Wow.
God help us all. But I love it. I mean, I love writing, directing. I like learning and every experience. I think my criteria for doing anything, whether it's a play or a film or anything like that, is that I just want to have a one of a kind experience that is creative for everybody. And there's been times where people are like, oh, you've done plays. That's because I don't feel like I've got the full experience out of those, or
Mhm.
we've done, like I feel like there's more to be mined and more to learn and more to make either the script better, have something I like singular experiences where if I do a show, like Tony, you were in a couple shows. I don't think I've
Mhm.
redone any of those. Like we did the first show Tony did for me was 2003, Lulu and Me. And that was
Yep.
such a singular experience that we can't replicate.
Mhm.
I don't want to. If somebody else wanted to direct it, I'd be like, go ahead. But what would be the point, at that? And
Right.
that's I always tell people, I think when another example would be like Buster Keaton, 2011. We did that show, and that was such a singular experience. I did not want to repeat it unless it's on a bigger scale. If someone says, "Here, Lenny, here's $1 million," do Lulu and Me in New York or something like that. I'm like, that's a reason to do it, and that's the reason. That's maybe like some place to take it creatively. But that's kind of what my experience has been. A lot of times, even people who are in the business right now, who are directing films, people who are even famous people, they will tell you that too, is that they remember those singular experiences. Because no one really gets rich off this. You might get a little bit of fame, but it's only like the 1% of the 1% who are getting, that living basically. Everybody else is a working actor or writer. So
Right.
I decided that I'm gonna have a fallback job, but I'm gonna create the stuff I want to create, and it's been going very well. I mean, for the last 25 years or so, I think it's
Well, I
been
would
yeah.
say, I mean, hats off to you too, because I mean, not a lot of people can say like, yeah, they might be directing like 2 plays a year, but you're not only
Mhm.
directing, but you're also writing the plays that you're directing,
and
which
and
is
for a
which
lot
is
of times, yeah, it's
and
producing them
you're
too.
yeah producing. Like I mean, you're wearing like 3 or 4 hats, like how many
Mhm.
times a year? So I mean,
Right.
that in itself is like another job.
It really is, and promoting it and doing all those things. But the thing, it's you guys know Kevin Smith. The thing that Kevin Smith will tell you, like Kevin Smith, I mean, we're not that different genetically. I mean, honestly, as far as being creative, being what we're creative, he's constantly trying to like no studio will ever was hiring Kevin Smith anymore to direct a film. Like the days of like him doing even like Chasing Amy or Mallrats, or even Dogma. Even I think his last like studio film was Clerks 2. I mean, if you really think
Hmm.
about it, like he did Tusk, he did these other things, lower budgets, but the thing is, he kind of directed himself. He wrote and directed himself out of the favor of the studios, and that was almost by design. But if you look what he's doing right now, he just has I mean, he definitely has a bigger audience than I do. But what he's doing is he's doing what he loves. He's writing what he loves, and he's taking it amongst his fans. And it's not much different from what I'm doing, to be honest with you. But that guy's he's working at it, like he's out there, and so I admire that. Whether I mean, his films have been mostly missed for me in the last like 10 years, except for Clerks 3. But he's out there doing it. He's at the conventions. He's doing those things. So I mean, you guys are doing the podcast, and that's amazing to me. I love people who are doing something creative. Tony, you've got 2 kids, right? I think
Yep.
right now,
2 girls. Yeah.
other Tony doesn't know how many kids he has.
Yeah, I've
This is
heard.
an advertisement now for condoms, guys. Wear them. Tony Cooley smile for the camera.
Oh my God.
But
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just amazing. That's, you have to find your own creativity and what makes you happy, and this makes me happy. So there'll be a time I'm sure it won't make me happy, and I'll go out to sea or something like that.
You just like drive off on your boat like Dexter at the end of the
season. Yeah, and then come back and see Aaron Andre. That's right.
Yeah. That's right, man.
Yeah, dude. Like I've read Stephen King's memoir.
Oh, cool.
The On Writing book. I don't know if you ever read it, but
it's brilliant.
He talks about, he goes deep into like how, it was in the beginning. Like we all know Stephen King as like, holy shit, it's Stephen King.
Right.
But when he was getting started, it was like he couldn't get published. Like he couldn't get he couldn't get anybody to pick him up or whatever. So there was a lot of sacrifice, there was a lot of grind, there was a lot of determination and like self-value, right? Like
right.
So how much of that was your experience coming up like in this business that you're in?
Well, I mean, honestly, like Stephen King, I could have went the route. I mean, he's saying there's a lot of drive, and after he got successful, there's a lot of cocaine. I just have to acknowledge that. I mean, for Stephen King, there's a lot of cocaine. If you ever want to see Stephen King on cocaine, look at the trailer for Maximum Overdrive. You ever seen that?
No,
I mean, I've seen Maximum Overdrive, so case closed.
Yeah, exactly. He's just like, I will say that. So he went from that to like, but I understand that though. For him, good for him. I mean, we got over it. Not quickly, but we got it from it at least. Anyway, for us. Anyway, Pennywise is, anyway. So
Pennywise is a product of cocaine.
It is. It really is. It really is. Well, I mean, come on. Well, the funny thing is, I was reading. This is a total tangent. I will answer that question. I just read that Pennywise and the Dark Man from The Stand could be the same person. Have you heard about that?
That's interesting.
And I said, that's really interesting. And I'm like, wow, I should do cocaine.
I don't know, Lenny, if I could picture you on cocaine. You're fast enough, my friend.
Yeah, dude, I would literally be jumping through the screen right now. I'd be like, oh, we all float over here,
Like I'm mind blown right now that you're not on cocaine.
No, I know, right? I never touch the stuff, trust me. Because I look at Stephen King from on writing. But anyway,
the only coke you've done, Lenny, is diet. That's about
right.
it.
That's right. I drank a Monster once, so it was phenomenal.
Oh, anyway. God.
Anyway, but yeah, I mean, honestly, what was the question again? I'm kidding. Stephen King, the way I feel about that too, is like, yeah, there is a lot of sacrifice. And it really is depending a lot of times on how much you do want to sacrifice of yourself. That's really the thing, it's like anything else, you're gonna, was there things I sacrificed? I mean, I could have gone to grad school. And I could have, there was a time I actually could have gone to Brown at one point. I could have gone to UMass Amherst for grad school, could have went other places to establish playwriting. And I actually have, I won't tell you where the school was, but if you ask me off the air, I will tell you. But I had a really interesting conversation once with the dean of a prestigious school. And it was one of the most amazing. So I went on an interview for this, and I was thinking about it. And they flat out told me at the interview, like, we want you to have 1 to 2 years worth of experience before because you're coming. We love your stuff, but you're coming from college. You don't have any real world experiences. You were shielded by the school. We only accept this many people in the world. This is how many people we accept, and we do like you, and we like what you do. But if you have 1 year or 2 years of experience, you might not even want to do grad school. And, because, you have to, because no one's going to teach you how to write. We can't teach you how to write. We can teach you how to do form, but nobody's going to teach you to sit at that desk and do that. And that's kind of what Stephen King did, in a lot of regards. He could have gotten a job somewhere. I've been by his house up in, what's it called? Bangor. I mean, there's nothing to do up there. So maybe he made the right choice. But even so, he made those sacrifices and did those things. There were many things, even back in the day, where I tell people this all the time. People are like, well, how do you write so much? And I tell them all this, and I'm like, well, the thing is that it's not that I write so much as I do it every day. I can't, and I sacrifice something else. You might go on. People might like playing video games for an hour a day. For me, I don't play video games. I write. You might go out and drink with your friends 5 times a week. I don't go out and drink with my friends. I write. So there are sacrifices to be made. There are sacrifices certainly, with for a long time, and this is something that really I think about it affected me. It was my own fault. I'll even be completely honest about this too. A lot of my life, I was constantly taking jobs that, I wouldn't make a commitment to almost because I wanted to write. I wanted to, have that option to do things. So I worked not necessarily menial jobs, but I had opportunities to work in those jobs to move up. But I I almost didn't because I knew that I would be sacrificing rehearsal, and that was a mistake in a lot of regards. But where I am now professionally in my job right now, it wasn't a mistake. I guess maybe I just lucked into my new job. I don't know, but what a job I'm in now, but it affords me both, and I couldn't find that right balance in a lot of regards. I think that's what a lot of us struggle with. Do I, do I go with the family? Do I do this? Do I not have a family and pursue my career? Do I, what do you do? And myself, I'm trying to keep everybody in my life that's valuable to me. So that's number one. You have to make that out of the way too. So once you have that established, then you have to figure, okay, how do I make this dream come true? And these are the parameters where I come true. Like I can't immediately go to LA. At one point I would love to go to LA, but I'm also going to be 46. I'm going to show up like, hey, Los Angeles, I'm here. No one's going to hire me,
Right, right.
But I will tell you this, and this is going to be a very serious segment of the show, guys. I remember when I was in 2015. I was, how old was I? What was 8 years? I was 37 years old, and I was going to be turning. Actually, no, I think I was 38 years old. Actually, I was 38, and I just get let go from one of my the job that I was like, this was my security blanket. I mean, not that I was knocking it out of the park, financially or anything like that. I had, we had money, whatever. But it wasn't like, it wasn't like I could miss, like, 4 months worth of paychecks if something happened, I think that's what we all feel at some point. It's like you guys probably have a house and, an apartment or whatever, and people listening probably have that too. And it's like, my God, if you lose that job, like, how long can you survive? You always think about that. I'm sure. Do you guys think about that at all, or like how
Oh
long?
yeah,
all the
I mean
time.
from time to time, yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah, and that's like a common stress for people. Like, what am I going to do? Like, if I lose this job, then everything goes to crap. And then I did lose the job I had, and I'm like, oh my God, like this will be the end of things. That's what you think to yourself. This is the end. Um, it's probably you think like, God, it's gonna be the worst thing that ever happened to me. So I was actually, it became probably one of the worst times because there was something going on with the theater partners I was working with, where they had promised me, oh, you'll move into a position here, and that was never a reality. And it was like a fantasy. I was kind of dangled in front of me. I don't blame them. Whatever, there's, they wanted to do what they wanted to do, and but like this will happen in a year. Just stick with what you're doing or whatever, And I had that choice. That's one choice, and I'm like, okay, I can go on this other way. So for that next, when you're 38 years old and you're, look like this, it's not, you can go into modeling, which I did. I'm kidding. I'm not really. Or you can go, you can do whatever you need to do. But you also wonder yourself, you're like, okay, well, what's going to be that next step? So, and luckily, lucky I was able to I had other things I could do. I got into financial stuff, which I never thought I'd be good at, and luckily I have
Right.
an aptitude for. But that also in a way that was also even more helpful to what I was doing. I didn't realize it at the time because I lived almost in this fear of like, oh God, if I lose this job, this will go away. But what I didn't trust and didn't realize that it didn't need to go away. It just needed to alter. It actually altered into a better situation for myself. So I don't know what that point of that story is, but
No, I think it makes sense.
yeah,
I mean,
Does.
the course of your life actually
yeah,
is going to affect anything you do, so
right.
it's weird how things work out, like
Well,
there.
that's what I was trying to get to, though. It's like anything else. Yeah, like the way that this hits the river affected my creativeness. So I was able to parlay that into something that even became a different kind of more creative in a different way, which was amazing. I actually got to do. So I actually think the shows I did after I left my other job after I turned
Mhm.
38. I think the shows I've done in the last 7 years were some of the best shows I've ever done. I will say that honestly, I feel like everything I did before was great. I love that. That was like a nice section. But I think every show I did from Social Avenger on was, and I'm including the other Barrett, the third Barrett, because that was an excellent show. But I think that those were the start of just like a really new creative chapter. What ends up happening a lot of times is that we think that, again, that like Stephen King, he thinks that this is what it's going to be, this is what it's going to be, kind of keep that over there. But every part of your life, if you're really creative, you will make the time for what you need to do, and you'll find a way. And that's what Stephen King did. He found a way. You guys yourself, Tony, I know used to act a lot, but he does need a creative outlet because, he has 2 kids, he's got a wonderful wife and he's got a job. But what's his creative outlet? It's this. You guys are doing a podcast. That's fucking amazing, when you give that up, when you give up that idea of like, I want to create something, I just want to watch TV, I don't want to be bothered with this creative stuff, I think almost you die inside a bit,
So I have to say, I have to jump in because like you're literally saying things that have been in my head for the past year.
Yeah.
Like there are times where like, because I'm not doing anything. It's like I could sit down and watch a movie, but I have to do something. Like I have the itch. Like I have to be creative in some way. So I totally understand where you're coming from. It's like perfectly said.
Perfectly said. The problem for me is that I just want to do everything.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to do everything. I want to 3D print, paint, fucking play board games, play video games, watch movies, do a podcast, it's like there's just so much, and like don't want to pat myself on the back at all, but I'm good at a lot of it, and like and I really love it and I want to do it, and it's like there's just not enough time in the day, and it's almost overwhelming. But like I try to, like you said, like you carve out the time to do the things that you want to do, and you find a way. And Tony has asked me several times in our tenure as podcast hosts, like, how the fuck do you watch all the shit that you watch? And
I don't understand. Well, it's kind of like Lenny. I mean, like that's like you though. I mean, like you have so much going on. You're writing 2 plays a year. You're directing, you're producing, you have your day job, but then like you're posting like every day. It's like director study, and you've watched like a 2-hour movie. I'm like, how are you doing it, bro? How are you doing it?
In a freaking most amazing way. So I don't sleep very often.
You're married, you have a kid.
Right. How do I do it? Right. Like it's funny because when we just did the Batman show, the Bill Finger show. We did
Tell me your secrets.
Yeah, people were asking me that. They're like, you're directing a film. Doing that, we just start up the film, which was really kind of stupidly insane. But we did start the film in August of last year, and I was in rehearsal for the Batman show. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh God, I'm taking this Batman show to 3 states, and I'm doing New York Comic-Con. And I'm like, but it was like so people are looking at me like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm opening up in 3 cities in 4 weeks, and I'm doing 4 weeks worth of shows and maintaining the job that I did. I figured out a way to make it happen, but it took like 6 months of planning to get there. And I think what it is, man, it's like, I have this idea, and once I have an idea, I gotta keep going till it's done. And I don't, and that honestly, if I tell people, if anything, I've slowed down a bit, just writing and everything like that. And it sounds weird to say that, but I feel like I have slowed down. The thing of it is I've gotten to the point where I'm 46. I'm 46 years old. I only have maybe about 15 years more worth of plays that I can direct or do anything, or films I can direct. I mean, I'll be writing forever. I think I'll be writing for the rest of my life and let other people do it. But at age 60, I think I'm just going to say, you know what? I'm going to go travel. That's it. I'm going to retire. I'm going to travel. I'm going to see the world. I'm going to actually spend the last like 20 years of my life before I get sent into a nursing home. It's traveling and seeing things. And then when I get to the nursing home, they can wipe me. I'm fine with that. I'm good.
All of those things are going to inspire you, right? Like full inspiration from all like traveling. Even when you get to the nursing home, there's going to be things there that inspire you to write.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people though, I think what it is that they and I don't mean to, and everyone's listening to this and they might be saying, oh God, like what the hell? Is that me? But and this is a true honest thing. Some people just have that drive. Some people have that drive for this amount of time, and that's okay. Like, I mean, some people have this, like, it's like, to say, I want to act, and then like they hit 25 and like, I don't want to act anymore. It doesn't mean they didn't have that passion when it happened, but that's all the gas they were given, basically.
Yeah.
And that's all the Lord gave them. But some people I think they hit a certain point, and it's like, they can go away from it, but they're never going to stop. I mean, I look at Richard Griffin. He was always telling me, he stopped saying he's going to retire. Thank God. He's a director that I work with. He's always said, I'm going to retire. But the problem with Richard, and I mean, it's in a very positive way, is that as far as what it goes, something always pops in his head and he can't get rid of this obsession. And I think that's amazing. Like, I think that for me, I'm so blessed to have that, like, and cursed at the same time to have that thing where I'm just like, Tony, you remember Bob Colonna, right?
Oh my God, yeah, I love Bob.
Bob Colonna is a wonderful guy. His father was Jerry Colonna. He was, in case anyone listening, he was an actor in the local scene and just
Bob's
retired.
awesome.
Maybe. Bob's awesome. I mean, he's not acting anymore, but he was 78 years old. And I asked him, would you want to do a cameo in a show for me? And he was so excited, like it was like the first day on set for something,
Right.
And but that to me was amazing. I think if I'm blessed to be at that age and say, hey, my gas in my tank might run out next week. It might never run out. I don't think it'll ever run out. But as long as there's a passion in front of me, and as long as there's a passion in front of you, you'll find a way to get there. It's just a matter of how we're going to do the path at that point. How do I have all the time to watch movies? I have no fucking idea.
Yeah, dude, like I've seen a lot of.
It's a great answer. I love it.
A lot of movies and I read a lot of books. Where there are characters like that, like they're 78, they're retired, they're out of the game for a long time, and somebody goes to ask them to come back, and the first thing they say is like oh, those days are behind me.
Yeah.
Not the man I used to be. Like, have you ever ran into anything like that? Like, or are most people usually generally excited to like want to do something and get back into it?
Man, first I'll say I hope that's me. Like, it's like instead of old man Logan, get old man Schwartz. Hey guys, I'm like one last one. I'm gonna come back.
You're running through the woods, throwing scripts at people.
Like how's it going? Go like Clint Eastwood. Get off my lawn. I got shit to do.
Yeah.
So, but
it's a great movie, Gran Torino.
I mean, I run into people like that. I mean, every so often I'll run into people that I hate to say this, like, not that they made the wrong choice, but they do miss it. Like, we're working with, I think Derek Colantano, Tony, correct?
Yeah.
So Derek hasn't acted probably since Social Avenger on stage. And he's in the new show I'm doing. When I asked him to do the show, I said, would you like to come out for this? Because honestly, I wouldn't actually have done the show without Derek, because there's a specific role he's playing that only he could play. I would have redone the show somehow or figured it out. And Derek's like, I haven't acted in this long. And I'm like, and so he's come back to it and he's loving it. Like he's doing such an amazing job. He's actually he's coming to his own as a performer, which has been really great to see. He's grown up, he's had life experience, and it's really kind of like, he's come back from not acting and actually living the world, trying to go through the struggle that we've gone through. And it really has informed that who he is. And so I'm excited because his performance is freaking amazing. And it's not, it's something we haven't seen from him before. So you'll see that every so often someone come back. Even Tony Amaral, every so often, we didn't do a Barry for forever, but even so, it's just like, yeah, let's do it. And you weren't doing stage work at that point, I don't think, right?
No.
You came back to do stage work, and it was your best performance. Like really, it was.
Thanks, man.
No, but I mean that, and I mean it's not because it was comedically funny, but there was so much more that you lived in life that it felt like the whole show was just like, if there was ever the most perfect show that I think I've ever done, as a comedy, just a straight out comedy, that was probably up my top list because it was so funny and it was just a joy watching these people. You could have put, and even Jim, like even our friend Jim Kelly, who's in the show, even Dan, you guys have worked together so long and worked together in different ways, or known each other, hung out in different ways, that watching that show, the easiest show I've ever directed in my life.
And it's funny because with those two, though, it's like, it's just like riding a bike, man. Like you get back on stage and that chemistry never is always there.
Right.
You know, and then you throw Aaron into the mix, and he just fueled the fire.
Oh, he did. It was so good. I was like,
yeah.
That was probably the most fun experience I think I've had. And it's like I tell people, I mean, besides, I think I did a show called Me 3 at that point, which was a little more politically bent, but it wasn't a straight out comedy. But I don't think I'm doing a fall comedy this coming up, which is called Pussy Hanukkah Comes to Harlem, which is going to be amazing. I don't know if I told you guys about
Cooley's face was classic. He was like,
please.
What's the title again?
Pussy Hanukkah Comes to Harlem. You guys want to know what it's about?
I have to. Yes, please.
So I was research, and I decided to do. I haven't done a comedy in so long that I'm just like, and especially the show I'm doing now. It's kind of a comedy, but it's also just like the end of honestly, it's the end of the local. I'm
just thinking, like, Grandma, you want to come see my show? What's the name? What's it called? Pussy comes to
Well, what's funny
comes to Harlem. What is it?
I'll tell you this. This is what's really funny. So at this point, I think when this podcast comes up, we're moving into a new space, and so every time I move into a new space, I'm like, oh fuck, here we go again. I'm gonna get because I always put together these shows, and they're kind of this like these shows that don't not that they don't offend people, but they're they have last time I put up the Social Avenger was I was supposed to open a new theater space for the Social Avenger, and everyone was like, no. And even to the point where they didn't even want the show to happen at all, and because they're like, this is going to affect our new space, and it was so much worry about it, and it was just like, it was so stupid because it's like it's just a show. It's not gonna, it's like any other show, and like I'm not gonna sit there and like drag penises all over the stage or anything like that. Like, look at this, which I eventually did anyway. because they said anyway. That's another story. But I wouldn't have had anyway. So open up the new space. I hope God did not listen to this, but the new space people, I love them so much, and there'll be more coming up about this in coming weeks. But we're talking to the people in new space. And I wouldn't sign on because I'm like, well, I say I want to see I want to feel the hesitation because I could find another space basically, but I'm like, God, I did the Bill Finger show, the Steve Ditko show, and they're like, I'm sure they're like, wow, this is great. He did all these things, he did a show about seduction of the innocent, all these PG-13 PG shows, and then they're like, well, I can just picture their eyes. I'm like, what's your show gonna open with? We can't wait. I'm like, oh, Pussy Hanukkah Comes to Harlem. I'm sure they're like, fuck.
That's amazing.
I thought that'd be the reaction, and then so I was kind of a test. I like to put everything out front. And I said it in a meeting. They're like, and then they got really excited. They're like, "What's that about? It sounds amazing, right?" And I'm like, "I got the right people." So, but the show is about. I can tell you this. I can tell you the bare minimum about the show. It's literally about this is a phenomenon that could happen scientifically, where the Earth stops spinning, like it stops spinning completely, like it just stops. And scientifically, you can look it up. But so the Earth stops spinning because everyone's become so politically correct. And so, so woke and all those things that the grease that runs the Earth stops. So the Earth is going to go into an Armageddon apocalypse, and so the U.S. government decides to find two canceled comedians from the 1980s with their mohawks, and to try to show everyone how to be offensive again. And try to teach the world to be offensive. So
I love this. I love it.
Yeah, so I really wanted to do. So I used to do these shows with Old Daydream, where we used to do these kind of like wild shows, and we haven't done one of those like a rodeo for such a long time, like Kung Fu Babies. And I said that's what we really need now, because I've been doing such. Oh my God, like I'm going to rehearsal even now. Like the show I'm doing is very good and it has some very very funny moments, but it's heavy. And I'm sitting there, and it's a very strong show. But at the same token, I'm like, my God, everyone's get to have fun. And I'm just like, yeah, what are we doing this time? Oh, we're talking about rape in the community. Yeah. But I feel like that. I feel like even so, I'm even doing the Bill Finger show. I'm like, okay, what's it about? Oh, it's about a guy who got screwed over by by his creators and about the sad life he had. We're talking about seduction of the innocent. We're talking about, and that's the shows I've been doing. And it's like, I'm lucky to be able to do those. And I didn't want to miss those opportunities at one thing. But at a certain point, I'm like, my God, like what's going to come next? At this point, hey, Lenny, what do you got going on? Let's talk about, I don't know where to really, I don't know that there's a place I could go. And directing the film too, it's a very strong horror film that I just need to do something that says, okay, I need to have a little fun at least once. And then I'll go back back to like, some other stuff and do some things that I don't know if I'll have a place after that. Cause once you see the show and Jesus, anyway.
Oh my
Like,
God.
would you say it's like a bookend to the Social Avenger?
Actually, funny enough, that you say that, the show I'm doing now, right now, Dramatis Persona, is actually a bookend to the Social Avenger. And it's
I
also,
nailed it.
yeah, no, so and I kid you not, and if you get a chance to see the show Dramatis Persona, I will tell you a little bit about it. Nothing. I don't want to give away any details, but I will tell you this. Dan Martin is playing me, and Dan Martin played me in the Playwright's Notebook in 2005.
Yeah.
So I always consider the Playwright's Notebook the first part of the Social Avenger trilogy, and then the Social Avenger being the middle part. And I said it'll always be a third one. And I said will be the third one. So I've slowly, over the last 8 months, have been pulling people back from the cast of the original Social Avenger. I did ask Tony, but Tony was like, "I got kids, dude, and a career," and I'm like, "I get it."
I want to do it. I don't know if I could fit it in. I need the magic.
Yeah, you need the magic.
need the
Exactly,
secret.
right? We have 84% of the cast from Social Avenger. I just actually cast in Julian because we lost an actress, and Julian said yes. And I'm like, she was available. Great job. It was great. And it was I was like, sad, so I'm actually, one thing I am doing, you'll notice, and a lot of people aren't going to notice, there'll be little things from the original Social Avenger. That is, if you like the Social Avenger, you'll like this one. But holy shit, the one I'm doing now is,
Oh my God.
yeah. Well, I wanted to do a show. Well, I can talk a little bit about it, I guess. I won't say much about it, but I'll say I always found that, we are always, what theater people have turned into now is that there's no more theater on stage. There's always off stage, and now it's online where people are, I don't want to say they're like, oh, they have one opinion, then they all gang up on each other and shit like that. You know what I'm talking about? You probably see it, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of want to focus on that. And it's so toxic in a certain way. It's kind of like the Snyder fans, the Snyder in a certain way. But there's a lot of abuse that happens just researching a play in local theater, not saying Rhode Island, just Rhode Island theater, but everywhere. Like if you look, that's the big hot topic now. It's like everywhere you look, and there's abuse in theater. There's abuse in New York. There's abuse in, in Portland, Portland, Oregon, and everywhere you look, there's something that's going on. And how do you address that as a, how do you address that? So I decided to write a comedy about it. But then it became something really else. And as I was writing it, and this is, I say, more of a dramatic comedy this time. But it became something I'm like, okay, well, the main character has to be almost a representation of me. And it took me forever to find an actor that could play me. And I was like, who's going to play me? And we had somebody who did a reading for us, but he couldn't do it afterwards. And then Dan kept saying, I want to audition for you. I want to audition for you. I had played you before, and I like the version of you before. I'm like, okay. And he read against everybody else, and he was perfect, not because he was playing me, but because he had the stuff to go. So, but there are some certain things that Dan does that you'll recognize immediately. That he does for me, because you can't be playing me without doing those things. So,
Right.
So if you like the Social Avenger, or if you hated it, or you'll like this show. It is definitely the third part of the trilogy. And I always said that this one show will, it'll either, it ends in a very positive experience. It might piss a lot of people off, and I might lose half my audience. But when we do Pussy Hanukkah, we'll lose the second half of that audience, which I'm excited about.
Hey, and then you'll get a fresh audience. You'll get a whole new batch of people. Yeah, honestly, man, people need to just stop being so safe. If you're gonna do something creative, you're gonna do something comedic, then do it. And if you lose people, then you didn't want them there anyway.
Well, that's a very good point in some regard. I mean, every regard, I think that's true, because I think that's what's happening a lot of times, is that everyone's so scared about right about now, is afraid of that moment when it get put on blast, right? Someone's gonna blast me online, and that's like people use that as a weapon now to almost to shit on creativity. And not just on a local scale or anything like that. That's kind of what the play's about too, is that, there are people who do deserve that to be put on blast. And that's what the play kind of examines. and you know, specifically some certain characters that deserve to be put on blast, and certain abuses that should not be tolerated, of course. But I also feel too, and I do agree with that. If we're going to do it, let's do it. You know, let's not. That was the real thing to do the show. People have said I have to be completely transparent on every aspect of my life if I'm going to do a show like this, because and people are like, wow, that's kind of. I don't think it's brave, and you know, I think it's just you have to be. I think that's where a lot of people fall short, is because they're not being transparent, and that's another theme of the show. But you have to be transparent. You have to push it out there. I don't. I don't think that. I don't think that necessarily everything should be scrutinized. A lot of times, it just comes from the characters, you know, and you can't have interesting characters if they don't. You can't if you're so afraid to write those interesting characters or write those things that might offend people. And that's another thing that the show is about too, is that you have to push that. If you're going to do it, do it. I can't stand people who half-ass things. If you half-ass it, don't do it. If you're not going to do it completely, I can't stand kindness. When I sit at rehearsal, I'm like, you know, with people, don't give me kindness. I don't cast people who give me kindness. If people make that determination, even if it's the wrong determination that they made, we can fix that. But at least they made that choice, you know. I feel that's one of the things that's so hard about Hollywood right now, is I think that a lot of films right now are in that kind of stage. Like, we're gonna kind of do it, you know. And then you have toxic fandom who won't let them do it. Yeah. So I think we can talk about toxic fandom another time, but Jesus, you know.
It's funny that you say that. I really agree with that, because a couple of friends of mine and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, and you know, like I don't feel like in Hollywood there hasn't been a really strong streak of good classic comedies. Like, I mean, you think about like when I was, you know, in like early college years, like they had like the American Pies, and that you have like Wedding Crasher, 40-Year-Old Virgin, Old School, like all of those are instant classics. I agree that there are some things in there that like aren't necessarily politically correct, but they're funny because people can relate to them. Like, not everything in life is safe. You know what I mean? So the weird things are going to happen. And I think if you kind of like touch upon those things in some way, there is some comedy in that.
There is, you know? and I do think that too. I do believe that too. I think I agree with you. It hasn't been a great comedy. I don't think. I actually really liked the new Shazam movie, because it actually had some really funny moments.
I haven't seen that yet. Okay.
Yeah, I loved it, and people are bashing it because like, oh, this and this. I'm like, guys, just have fun with the freaking movies. God,
everybody bashes just it's a movie, man. Like, go on and just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not going to sit there and be like, oh God, Ant-Man wasn't what I wanted to be. I'm going to die of cancer. Jesus, just fucking put it away. You know, seriously, who gives a shit? You know, and I think I said to you guys before, but honestly, we're going to talk about stuff like that. Ant-Man, oh God, it wasn't what I wanted. Oh my God, really? Oh Jesus.
How would you? I mean, Cooley and I agreed right away. Like, Jonathan Majors was amazing in that. Like,
amazing.
There was so many good points to this. Good. There were so many emotional moments to that movie. Like, it wasn't an Ant-Man, like the original Ant-Man comedy, but there were still so many good elements in it.
Yeah, and people are mad because like, oh my God, it's not Endgame. Endgame did. I'm like, fuck off.
It's really not going to be Endgame.
Yeah, it's not Endgame. You know what? I know. You know what I remember? I remember sitting through that movie and enjoying it. I watched Shazam, and I felt the same way. I look what happened on I look on Monday morning. I see article after article about why Shazam failed, right? And I'm like, it takes away from my experience, because I'm like, I really enjoyed this movie. I stopped reading reviews because I enjoyed it. I'm like, this felt really fun to me, and I don't understand why people are pissed at it. I think that everyone wants to be a critic. When everybody's a critic. Nobody's a critic, and nobody can enjoy anything. It's always going to be, you know, things are just what they are. I mean, it's disposable entertainment, honestly, a lot of it. You know, if it doesn't work, great. The reason why there's no good comedies anymore, though, the reason why you said that is you're exactly right what you said. People are afraid to offend. So what you get, unfortunately, is that you get three things in comedy right now, and that's it. And this is what all the comedies have turned into. They turn into, number one, something so fucking stupid that your brain falls out. And it's so fun. You have like, you know, it's not even like the bench warmers. It's like the bench warmers of the bench warmers. And you're like, oh, hey, would you like to have some water? Hey, I'm a character. And you're like, fuck? Jesus. And number two, what you have too is you have
Cooley. I can see like it's exactly what he says a lot of the times.
but number two, but you're right. Cool, you're exactly right. Number two, what you get these actors or actresses who make one funny movie, and I'm looking at you, Melissa McCarthy, who make one funny choice in one funny movie, and then we watch them. And I'm not just picking on Melissa McCarthy, but I'll pick on her, not because of any other reason that I saw Bridesmaids. I didn't like Bridesmaids, the reason that's number three, because we watch these actors who get a success. Melissa McCarthy was very funny in Bridesmaids. No matter what you say, she was hilarious. But the movie didn't work for me. But even so, but then it's like, oh, she's funny in this. We'll put her in 1,000 different movies. Oh, Identity Thief. Oh, you got this. Oh, you got this. You get somebody else like Jason Bateman. Jason Bateman is actually a really strong actor. But Jason Bateman said, is very sarcastic. Let's put Jason Bateman in all these movies that just the titles interchange, you have, who else is a comedy star right now? Like, I don't even know anymore. Like, who even does comedy? Nobody, right? I think, but that's what it is. They pick on this one actor and they put him in all these situations and all these different things. Like, it turns into situational comedy, and that isn't funny. It's like, the person, they don't work in the script. They work around the person. So it turns into this mess. I actually think of the new Ghostbusters with not the newest one, but the one before that, the one with Melissa McCarthy. I'm not picking on her again. I don't find Kristen Wiig funny at all, but I saw that movie, and even so, you had these four actresses. Whether I like Kristen Wiig or not, she does have some comedic abilities. You watch that movie, and you're like, wow, did anyone do anything else except say we're going to put these four women together? Did they create a script from cloth? Did they do anything? The original Ghostbusters was these four actors who worked really well together, but they built it up from scratch. This one, instead of building it from scratch, they put the topping on first, which is the four actresses. Let's build it around them, and that doesn't work. I think that's my point number two. Number three, and I'm going to sound like an old man at this one. Yeah. You have unnecessarily sex comedies. All the things. There's always somebody doing something fucking stupid sexually, and I can't fucking stand it. There was a movie called Palm Springs with Andy Samberg, which could have been very funny. I thought, wow, Andy Samberg is in the movie. Literally littered with sex jokes all over the place, and it had a good script, had a fun script. I literally sat there, and I'm like, why? Did you see this movie?
I haven't. No,
I loved it.
Yeah, you loved it. I love
the movie.
But even so, you're watching it. I can't let my daughter watch that. So right. It's not something like Happy Gilmore. We'll say that Happy Gilmore or The Wedding Singer, or even like, I wouldn't say American Pie or even Old School, but something that I would, even if she saw it by herself, I wouldn't feel comfortable with her watching that movie. Or even something like, I'm trying to find like a good example of this. Something like Liar Liar. Yeah. Liar Liar, PG-13, hilarious, I think, unbelievable. But it's not. I always feel like that. It's even the Palm Springs movie. Even if they took out all those things, there isn't enough. It isn't enough to make it a classic for me. That says I can pass this over to somebody. And but that movie's I felt was a little guilty of it. But there was some other movies I was watching. It was like so Mike and something get wedding dates. Stupid freaking title. Remember that movie? I don't know if you remember this thing.
I know what you're talking about it, but I don't know the exact
Plaza
title.
Was in that one.
Yeah, she's in that, and it could have been a really funny movie. But then you get to the part where it just becomes some uncomfortable sex swing scene, and I'm like, oh god, why are we watching this? Like, this is so dumb, and it takes me out of the movie because nobody wants to be creative. They want to go for this really cheap laugh that isn't really funny or built on anything comedically.
You know where I think that comes from, though? I think that comes from like a lot of like comedians now. Like I'm a big fan of Bill Burr and I'm a big fan of Louis C.K. But I feel like a lot of those comedians use like sexual jokes as shock value, and I feel like it works. So I think that they try to put that into film, and I don't think it translates the same way.
Well, that's just it. I feel the same. I feel that too. It doesn't translate to film. I saw Cocaine Bear. That's what I saw recently.
I just finished watching that yesterday, and I texted Cooley. It was like I actually didn't. I was like, "What is this?"
Yeah,
I thought it was the show. I was like, "That's it."
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They went for the cheap. And it's like, I wanted to laugh, and I wanted to feel something really funny about that. Like, I want to see the special effects. First of all, were awful. But I mean, people ask like, "What do you give it?" I mean, what do you give it? I'm like, I might give it like a 3 or a 4 out of 10. We'll say, right? Because people are like, well, it's the concept, the idea is funny, but everything else in it was just stupid. Like I thought there was nothing. There was like and that's just structurally, comedies have become a donut. You have this big glaze of cocaine bear, we'll say, right?
Mhm.
And there's nothing in the middle to hold together. So I'm watching, I'm like, all right, well, what the fuck? I don't care about Margot Martindale. Like,
Yeah.
even at his worst, I mean, at his worst, in Liar Liar, Jim Carrey was a freaking cat in that movie, right? We'll admit that.
Oh, it was
He was the
amazing.
worst. But he was amazing because you actually, like, he's so awful as a person in that movie. His turn is hilarious, and it's so you're like, he was so awful to watch. But I mean, but he didn't care. He went the distance. He said, I'm going to do this. There's no one who's actually willing to do a comedy where they go the distance anymore and say, you know what, I don't, and that's the other thing. Nobody wants to be unlikable too in comedies. Nobody wants to be. Bill Murray in Ghostbusters was fucking unlikable, but he was great. It's like,
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, you watch him in Stripes, he's unlikable. He's a freaking, he's a pain in the ass, but he's hilarious because of that reason. Same thing in even Ace Ventura. What's funny about Ace Ventura? People laughed hysterically at that movie. Ace Ventura is a pain in the ass who shows up. It's like,
Yeah.
he's unlikable. Guy showed up. He's unlikable. Whatever. But nobody wants to do that anymore. They don't want to be. I'm coming in and I've got problems and I'm gonna get on and I'm gonna do this. No, I want to do the guy who's a freaking mental case, who comes in, who hates everybody. He pisses everybody off. And at the end, he might learn something. And it doesn't mean anything to him.
Yeah.
You
Oh my God. Well, I do want to touch on just a couple things. Like, these are the big things that I think are important that you've done, and I know that you're very proud of them, and you should be. You wrote a play about Bill Finger, which you've already mentioned, and you also wrote another about Steve Ditko, which were both like amazing shows. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think, Bill Finger, like, I think that brought a lot of. I think that opened up a lot of people's eyes to who he was, where I feel like a lot of people didn't know anything about Bill Finger. And I think it's been amazing. So that's just, I'm super proud of you for that, man.
Thanks, man. That was an experience of, I'll make this quick because I want to run on Zoom time. I love saying that. Zoom time. Anyway, but Bill Finger was something that I'm so glad we get to do the version that we finally got to do of that play. Because we did a version of it in 2015, and that's one of those experiences I was talking about earlier, where I was like, it didn't feel like a full experience to me. I don't feel it's like a definitive experience. So to be able to do that and have Athena and Alethea both involved with that and actually get to know them, and I've been friends with them for almost 10 years now, to actually do that and actually have it be the play that I wanted it to be. And at the end, I don't ever need to do the play again myself. If someone wants to take it, certainly they can take the script and do whatever they want with it. I'm kind of good with that script, actually. I feel like we've done, what I wanted to do with it. So this version that we just did, we took it to New York, we took it to Johnstown, Pennsylvania, we had it in Rhode Island. It was the version I've always wanted to tell, and the script I've always wanted to share with people that I couldn't get to in 2015, for many reasons. The original script I wrote in 6 weeks. I wasn't proud of it. And it went through so many changes over the last 8 years that to have that version, probably have so many different versions of it that it could have been, to be the version that it is, it's just felt amazing. So I'm happy with that. And I was happy just to call Alethea and Athena my lifelong friends. They're wonderful people. And I really am. I'm very lucky. And the Steve Ditko play, man, I just did that. I didn't think anyone would come see it. When I did it, I felt like, I was like, man, I wrote it. I want to do a play that I want to write about Steve Ditko. Nobody really knew who Steve Ditko was. And Stanley was in the show. And the first, I got to know Mark Ditko, who reached out to me, and he says to me, he's like, oh, well, there's things in the play. He read the plays. There's things in the play you should know about. And he goes, Steve didn't like this kind of food. He liked crepes. He liked this. He liked this type of music. He liked this. And he's like, is it okay if I'm telling you this? I'm like, yes, tell me everything, And I didn't think that Steve Ditko had any relatives, but turns out, he has a whole mess of relatives. Yeah, they're everywhere and all over my Facebook. They're wonderful people. It turned out that was really wonderful. So we're opening up the show, and I'm starting to realize there's more Ditkos when nobody thought they were even around anymore. And Mark was just really instrumental in it, and stuff like that. So we did the show in 2018. During the second week of the run, Stan Lee passed away, and then my ticket sales exploded. So, and that was something else. We then, we took it to New York in 2019. People went crazy for it. The New York Comic-Con crowd came in. It was really something. And same thing with even the Bill Finger show. People were coming up to the show. It was like they're coming to see they're going to Comic-Con, they're seeing the show. It was really cool. And to have that experience, to have that thing was really excellent. So when we did it in Johnstown as well, it was just like, I mean, we did the Ditko show again in Johnstown too. So I had 2 shows go up in Johnstown, which was amazing. It was like a 400-seat theater. They're turning into an IMAX now, which is amazing. I love the guy who's running it. So I told him I finished the film, I want to show my film in IMAX. He's like, I got the projector, dude. Don't you worry. He's like, to me, I'm like, all right, we'll do it, But I really want to do that. I'm gonna talk to him about that. Sounds like a lot of fun. But we did the show in Steve Ditko's hometown of Johnstown, Pennsylvania for Ditko. It was a Ditko con, so it was all these things related to Ditko, and he invited me down. I'm like, this is not happening. This is amazing. And the play was kind of like the centerpiece of the beginning of this convention that they had kind of going on. And there were literally, I think I might have told you guys this before, but everywhere I looked, there were Ditkos. Like I'm surrounded by 100 Ditkos at this point. All his family and relatives who know him, and they're watching the play, and they're like, "That's what it was like." And I'm like, "This is great." I was amazing. James Tinian, I think I told you guys, showed up with his partner Sam Johns.
That's awesome.
It was so nice and so cool. I didn't invite him; they showed up, and and because Sam Johns is actually from Johnstown, which is hilarious. We had a nice run of the show, and we're watching the show, and then the character Stan Lee comes out. I'm sitting there surrounded by Ditkos, and I said this before. And when Stan Lee came out, they all booed him, and the Ditkos did. I'm like, this is the best day of my life. But it's so interesting because this is the thing, when you do stuff that's creative, you never know where it's going to take you. You guys decide to do a podcast, look where it's taking you guys. This same thing happened to me with this. Like, I write plays, I get to know the Ditko family, and I never thought my 3 passions in life are Batman, comic book wise, Batman, Spider-Man, and the Rocketeer. And I got to know Jen Stevens, who's Dave Stevens' sister. Because I reached out to her, I said, "Would you ever thought about a Rocketeer play?" She's like, "Well, no, because they're doing a documentary." I'm like, "That's cool, that's fine, whatever." And the documentary is everything you'll ever need about the Rocketeer. It is Dave Stevens. It's beautiful. Like, I couldn't touch it. It's amazing. But we got to know each other, and she's amazing. Like, she's an amazing person. So Jen, if you're listening to this, hi. But Jen actually took me and my family around to the Comic-Con Museum in San Diego when it was a Rocketeer Dave Stevens exhibit.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
She sent me a message afterwards. She came to my Bill Finger panel afterwards. And she came up to, she said, I had a wonderful time talking. We met a couple times before. And then she sent me a message. It meant the most to me. It's like, I sent you guys. I love this message. She says, "You actually remind me of my brother when he was alive, Dave Stevens. Always creative, always crazy doing things, always have these ideas." And that just meant so much to me. I love that. So, I mean, you never know where these little things will take you. I will say, if I'm going to do one more biographical play, maybe 2 more, there's only 2 things I would love to do. And I've said this 1,000 times. There's only 2 things that will take me out of the biographical play retirement. Only 2 things. Number 1 would be the Ninja Turtles. If it was Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman, if you let me do a play about them, I would do that in a second.
That's awesome.
Second, I would do that. The only other one I would do, if that's just a Rocketeer, which won't be happening, which I would love to do, but whatever. Trust me. I think the biography is the documentary is the best. But if there's one more thing I could do, I'm thinking more and more of it. If I could do one more, it would be the Man of Steel. I think that would be great. The creation of Superman. Yeah, I think that would cool. be. Yeah, because that's the father of superheroes. So I don't know about that. That's something that someone told me they wrote a play about them in Cleveland where they're born. I said, put your play up. It's been a year. They haven't done anything with it. So we'll see what happens with that. But for the time being, right now, I'm just doing the movie. I have a play in this fall, play in the spring, and then we'll see. I don't know what goes on after that. I'm only planning that far ahead at this point.
And you have some stuff on
writing Lieberman?
What's that?
Did you already finish writing Lieberman or
the Lieberman?
Lieberman, yeah, Stan.
Oh, Stanley, no. No. I love to write a play about Stan. I mean, I have the perfect guy to do it. I think that Stan Lee's story has been told so many times, and he's such an interesting character, but it's been told so many times and so many different. Actually,
really.
Yeah. I don't know.
Really. We hear bits and pieces of it, and some people get it right, and some people don't. As a historian, as somebody who knows comics and knows the real history behind things, there's a lot of stuff that's missing from the documentaries
Well,
that we see. It's
have you
sensationalized almost.
have you read the book by Abraham Reisman?
No, what is it?
So he wrote a book about
I'm
Stan
writing this
Lee.
down right now.
Yeah, Abraham. It's a little there's parts of it that are a little smarmy and they are smarmy, but it is heavily researched well. And it is a book that tells you, I mean, about his later years in life and the stuff that he went through. It is insane. It is insane, but it's a little too anti-Stan Lee for me, in my opinion. I love Stan Lee. I mean, I do fight for the artist. I don't think that Stan Lee was ever in the Bob Kane league as far as like being the biggest bastard in the world. Stan Lee is a very big conundrum because he was comic books' biggest cheerleader, and I will say that. Like, he did a lot of great things for comics. He also did a lot of things that were promoting Stan Lee. You know,
Right.
so
I mean, that's the thing with Stan Lee is like that. I mean,
yeah.
he was a character.
Oh, he was.
Stan Lee was a ham for the cam. He wanted to be on stage in the spotlight. That
all
he
the time
thrived that way.
Yeah.
And most of the artists in our community, like a lot of people aren't like, if you're an illustrator or you're a writer, like you're not shut in, but you're not really an extrovert, right? Like, because you're constantly creating and thinking in your mind, and you're seeing all these, so you're not really that person that's going to be the rock star. But Stan Lee was the absolute rock star, and that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So you're gonna have the anti-Stan Lee crowd or whatever. But for me, it's like, you just gotta understand that was the individual. That's who he was, and his personality and the way that he was so extroverted and wanted to be in the spotlight. That personality is what brought Marvel Comics to the spotlight that it had.
Whether you like it or not. I mean, honestly, that's the thing. Yeah. I'll praise Jack Kirby. I'll praise Steve 100%. Ditko all day long. They're amazing. Like, I mean, everyone at work, Barry Windsor Smith, Neil Adams, all these people, all these artists brought things up that brought comics up. Stan Lee, I mean, if he wasn't around, I mean, he could never admit that Steve Ditko was a co-creator of Spider-Man. He could never admit that Jack Kirby, did all these things. He was like, they're great and all these things, but they didn't create them because I did, and I truly believe he believed that. I think he lied to himself so much that he believed it after a while. But so I think there's a lot of that. But it really is a very murky waters to talk about, because I'm not Stan Lee's biggest fan, and people think I am, but I'm not. But I also can't discount what he did. At the end of his life, Stan Lee had some of the most tragic representation in the world of. So you might say it's, you might look at it this way. Everyone's like, oh, Stan Lee got the better part of the deal. He actually didn't. At the end of his life, he was ripped off to a point where it was disgusting. His daughter, his daughter, his manager, they ripped him off. I mean, there was a point where he's in a nursing home. I mean, I took a picture with Stan Lee in 2012 before I really started. I think maybe 2011. I have a picture with Stan Lee. I can send it to you guys. Stan Lee was in good health at that point, but that was about the point where, if you look at it from years after that, with people taking Stan Lee, he was asleep in some of those pictures. Like, he could barely. It was just almost like a rubber doll. Basically, they were planting him in different places. He had bodyguards. You couldn't get near him. He was just he'd be literally sitting there falling over in his chair. I mean, it was some sad stuff going on. And his manager really, really took him, I worry about that for some creators I see, who are elderly, who are elderly or older, going to these conventions. How much do these managers or these, promoters, who's young kids who should never be representing these people? And you look at them, like I actually met Roy Thomas and Roy Thomas was going to hire me for something about a year and a half ago.
Love Roy Thomas.
Roy Thomas. Have you ever met Roy Thomas?
I haven't.
You go to Roy Thomas, you meet him, you got to get through his promoter first. And that is a known quantity. I don't mind saying this out loud. Fuck it, I don't care. And I think whatever. Roy Thomas's promoter is, in a way, very toxic, and it reminds me of the promoters that Stan Lee had, where they were ripping him off. They were at one point just using him as a cash machine. I mean, if you look at it from this perspective, Jack Kirby died with his dignity intact, his family around, and all these other things. Steve Ditko, same thing, dignity intact, all the other things. If you look at Stanley's life really closely at the end, when he passed, it was not dignity intact. It was some of the most abusive circumstances I've ever seen in my life. And it's sad to say that to people. He was so in love with trying to get with the idea of who he was. He sort of ate himself up in a certain sense. I mean, he's still trying to have successes at 94. And
they turned him into a commodity.
Yeah. And they've used that commodity as much as they possibly can. And a lot of it was after a certain point, it was out of his hands. They were just taking his name and using it for what they wanted. So
it was sad, man.
Right. Yeah, man, absolutely.
Hey, dude, tell us about your movie though, man, before we.
Oh, yeah. So The Haunted and the Hunted. All right, I'll tell you that real quick. So I'm filming this weekend, which you'll probably be hopefully in the past at this point when it airs. But we're filming. It's about one woman who's it basically takes place. It's a silent film for 99% of it. It takes place during a werewolf apocalypse. So the world has ended and the werewolves have won. And so the whole, America is just, infested with werewolves, and it takes place over the 3 nights of the werewolf transformation when they become werewolves. And one woman's being hunted by a pack of werewolves over 3 nights, and she has a gun with 1 silver bullet, and she has to survive the 3 nights.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah,
that's a great concept, man.
Yeah, I want to see that.
It's gonna be wild. I mean, we're really
good questions though.
Yes. What do you got?
All right.
Can't wait.
So it's like the world is overrun by werewolves, or it's America that's overrun?
Well, the world is. I said an apocalypse. I said America, but she's in America. So
are they consciously making an effort to like preserve some humanity so they can have something to do?
I can't. It's kind of like hunting the last remnants of humanity, basically.
So is the goal to like eliminate them, or is it like, do they have like concentration camps where they like keep people where they can send them out?
I don't want to spoil that, but I will tell you that the woman who's running is trying to get to a safe haven. I can tell you that. That's okay. What she's trying to do. All right. And I don't want to get too much into it because I'd rather focus on the event that's happening rather than I'm trying to focus on the action. What ends up happening is a lot of low budget films is I think that they try to build, and a lot of films in general too, they try to build mythology so much that we lose the action. And I think that I mean, there's something, everything will be answered and everything will be explained about where we are and what point it is. But my focus is on like, okay, I want to see this. I literally just want to see this person be in sticky situations and get out of them as best she can, or she'll die. That's where the excitement comes in. So I'm more focused on that than building. I built the mythology around it, but it's not something that plays as important. Basically, you'll see that stuff, and those answers will happen.
Oh, like you could replace the werewolves with like something else, or you can replace them with like a natural disaster or whatever. She's just you're more focused on the survival aspect.
Right. It's absolutely, and it's also in a strange way, and I've said this very often. It's actually an allegory for how men treat women a lot of times, and how women feel even just walking to a parking lot. So and that fear of like, oh my God, they're out there, who are really insane, built up to a truly insane, paranoid like film. So it really is like trying to get out of those situations. But yeah.
I love
awesome, man. Oh, I can't wait to see that.
I can't film it. It literally is taking forever because doing dialogue is very easy to shoot dialogue. You shoot over someone's shoulder and then turn the camera around and shoot on there, whatever you need to do. This one's making each scene, each time tell the camera the story and tell it visually without saying words. So I can't rely on that. And I'm like, wow, my first real feature, and I just fucked myself. Thanks. Oh, playwright, look what I did. No dialogue.
Well, tell us where the people can find your stuff, man, because I mean you wrote a graphic novel, Chasing Unfiltered. Yep. I mean, people could definitely find that. You have your movies on Netflix, like Murder University. Like they can find you at a bunch of different places. So,
well, you can find me on Tubi. A lot of films are on Tubi at this point. You can also find it on Amazon. You can find me on Facebook, Leonard Xavier Robert Schwartz, not my real name. And I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, but not that much on Twitter. Every so often I'll put down something really obscure, and people are like, what the fuck does that mean? And I just I leave, and nobody likes it. What the fuck do I do? I hate Twix candy, and they're like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah, that's so true. You always put on random stuff.
Yeah.
So,
But I'm on Facebook, Leonard Xavier Robert Schwartz. You can email me. I'm an AOL. But I'm not gonna get my email out. But you can find me if you want. If you're looking for movies, you're looking for anything, Google me. You can also find me at Rhode Island Stage Ensemble's website for the stuff I'm doing.
okay.
And look at Daydream, they'll see the stuff I'm currently doing everywhere. So and as long as if my play goes bad, you'll find me in other places where I'm running. But if my plays go good, you'll find me online.
All right.
Yeah, now one day I'm gonna get that status though, where I could just be like, Google me.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
well, I'm not saying like that.
You want to find my stuff? Just Google me. Just
Google me.
look
Yeah,
me
He
up.
could though. I mean, he's got so much stuff under his name. It's insane. It's
I
crazy.
know, I know.
Killing it.
Yeah, that's what you got to do, guys. Just keep pushing. That's all you need to do. Tony Cooley, how old are you?
How old are me or hey, Cooley?
You know, I know how old you are.
Yeah.
You're like 29.
I'm 50 in May.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Are you really?
May 20th. Yeah.
Holy shit! Really?
Yeah. Nobody ever believes him, dude. He looks super young.
I'm like, dude, I thought I was gonna say like 32. I honestly thought you were gonna say 32.
There you go.
Thanks, man.
You
Thanks.
have-
It's
you have any
definitely the healthy living and
yeah, dude, you're great. Holy shit,
all the
you're
working
killing
out
it.
I do.
Fuck, Jesus, God, I'm depressed.
Um,
Do you have any kids,
I'm
Tony?
like I'm vegan. I'm a carnivore.
Wait, you're a carnivore. You're
He's
a
a
veganor?
a veganor.
Wait, I have to know. Do you have any kids? What is this? What is your secret?
No. That's the secret.
Really?
don't have kids.
That's the secret.
It's too
Good
late
for
for
you,
you,
dude.
but not for me.
Dude, you're 15. What do you do for a living besides podcast? Holy shit, that's like this. I'm gonna turn this around right now. What do you do?
No, it's just, that it's like if you don't do shit, then you don't waste energy or
Jesus.
parts of yourself. Like
I love it. If you don't do shit, your
Yeah,
body
you
looks better.
yeah, you just if you're lazy and
Oh,
just sit around
man.
all day and do nothing, then your
But
body
dude,
can't
you're
waste
living
away.
a dream. Dude, you got fucking Megatron back there.
Yeah.
I'm not using myself up is what it is. Like,
That's good. No, you keep it up,
I'm not
dude.
using enough
Seriously.
of myself to like actually look like I'm the age that I am.
It would have been great if you're, dude. One day you're gonna look. I'm gonna have the same conversation. You have the shit in back. You're like, I'm in a retirement home. I'm 90.
He's
Like, dude, it's
lying.
like-
He's just walking around the streets grabbing babies and going.
Yeah, no,
No, I bathe in baby blood.
Oh Jesus!
I haven't
Oh.
I haven't told anybody because friends of mine have babies and I don't want them to like not like me. But that's
I
what it is.
understand, but dude, you have fucking Megatron back there. No one's
Yeah, bro.
complaining. Dude, you
Yeah,
got
dude.
ET.
ET, yeah, man.
You got Spider-Man bobbleheads. And this is what it's about. Are you in a relationship right now with anybody? I'm asking for myself.
Yeah, I mean, I know it looks like I'm not, but believe it or not, a lot of this stuff is, gifts from my wife. So,
Oh, how long
There
you
you
been
go.
married for?
25 years, man.
Yeah, I knew you were married, but I didn't know if 25. Good, 25 years. You're
Yeah.
married at 25.
I might be overshooting it. It might be like 21. I don't even I have to do the math, and I'm not gonna do that on camera. So. But
We
yeah,
got married
somewhere
Thursday.
between 21 and 25.
Oh my God!
Amazing.
Congratulations, dude! You're killing it. That's what I'm saying. And Tony, you're killing it too. I'm gonna say this, guys. You guys, wonderful families. I know Tony's families. I mean, I know Becca very well. She's wonderful. He's got a wonderful wife. You look like you're killing it too. That's what it's all about. Honestly,
Thanks, man.
no. If you can have a good family and do what you're trying to, and have good love people around you that you love, extension wise, and anyone around, and you have good friends, and you're doing stuff that's creatively, what's better than that? Honestly,
All that matters, man. It's
Yeah,
all that
man,
matters.
for sure. That's
Yeah.
well said.
Yeah.
Family
Sure,
and good
man.
friends.
And
that's it.
oh God, I'm so fucking jealous. He's 50 years old. Holy shit. Anyway, good for you.
Hey, don't be too jealous, because I mean, I don't think that because I look young, I'm gonna like actually live longer. I mean, I think
I think you might.
I think I am still closer to the final stages.
Oh, good.
than yourself. So don't be too, excited for me.
Holy
unless you think the way that I do, where like the end, when it comes, is like fine and shit. But
Oh yeah.
like like, I mean, I feel like when the end comes, like, you know, I've lived a good life. You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
what it's about for me too, man. You want to get to the end and say, I did everything I could to make it good. And that's what matters.
Exactly.
I mean, to be honest with you, there are some days where I'm just like, hurry the fuck up already. But, but yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, Jesus. That's awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, bro. We will definitely talk soon. All right, man.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure. Thank you again.
All right, man. Take it easy, Lenny.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for checking out this episode, and we truly appreciate your support. If you are listening to this episode, please be sure to subscribe to our podcast and rate it to help us share these conversations with others who may enjoy it. If you're watching the show on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell so you can be notified as soon as we drop new and exciting content. Thank you so much again for joining, and be sure to tell your friends. Just make sure you don't call us Anthony.